David D hanging out with you this afternoon. We are at South by Southwest. Sitting in front of me is somebody you know him, you love him, representing Minneapolis, putting it on the map more than Prince himself, the one and only Slug from Atmosphere. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Having a good time. The weather here is really nice, very different from what it's like for me back home right now. It's really cold in Minneapolis right now.
You know, let's get the lowdown. There's Slug, there's Atmosphere, you know. What's the difference?
Well, Atmosphere is the crew. It's me and a producer named Anthony. You know, people call him Ant. And I'm Slug, the rapper from the crew. But Atmosphere is the name of the crew. Usually when kids are confused and they want to call me MC Atmosphere, or I usually try to explain it to them like, you know, you got Gangstar, which is Premier, and Guru. So Atmosphere is Ant and Slug.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Because I know I was confused at one point, and then, you know, but now we got it all straightened out, so I'm doing a favor for everybody else now.
I appreciate it.
So you're on the verge of putting out your new album. What's it? What are we going to look forward to? Because I'm still bumping stuff off the old.
Oh, thank you. The new record, we really try to challenge ourselves. You know, the last record we put out was in 2005, and since then I've been touring with live organic musicians that come on and play along with my DJ, and you know, we've been experimenting more with trying to get them kind of sounds in. And so when we made this record, we really sat down and tried to get rid of all samples, you know, just for this record, just to see what it would turn out like if we did that, if we had people replaying some samples, or people just like taking the mood of what the sample used to be and rewriting it, you know, whatever. We constructed it like we usually do, in the sense of we sat down and made a 4-track version with my vocals and Ant beats. But then after that, we took it from 4-track into a studio and started, you know, just reworking all the songs and cleaning out all the samples and bringing in other noises, just trying to see what would happen if, you know, because when you sample, many times, you know, especially nowadays, the really good producers, they just will layer live instruments right on top of the samples, because, you know, with samples, a lot of times it's just a mono, right. You know, your sample rate is here, whereas when you can do stuff in stereo with like a live bass player or a live, you know, synth or something, there's just a lot more room to expand the sound, you know. And
you know, you're bringing up a good point, and for people tuning in, we're talking with Slug from the legendary group Atmosphere out of Minneapolis. I had this long conversation with Chuck D, and he was talking about the importance of doing an album so that it's not linear, meaning that nowadays one of the challenges that artists have, in particular hip-hop artists, is that you listen to the album and nothing new comes across, right, because it's all the same. Yep. Everything has been quantitized. It doesn't change. It doesn't
even volume doesn't even go up and down. If you go back and listen to classic soul records or classic rock records, man, that one song will be big and epic, and then the next song will come in and it'll be smaller or less, you know, more lo-fi on purpose, because they were trying to grab a sound, you know. And it's like with hip hop, you really do your best to clean up the sample as much as you can so it can be clear, and then that's the sound everybody kind of tends to stick with, you know. And it's not at the fault of the producer. It's like, you know, this is a self-taught art form in many ways. You know, people that make this and make it well with their heart usually had to teach themselves how to make it. Maybe a little mentorship from somebody else who uses an MPC or something, but a lot of it's self-taught. You can't really go to classes and learn from the masters like you could with certain instruments, you know what I mean? And so,
but you know, in all fairness, though, you know, within hip-hop, and you tell me if you agree or not, because you're on the independent side, so you don't run into some of the same hurdles that the major label counterparts do. But when sampling was at an all-time high, people were just sampling indiscriminately. Right. James Brown bass line, Prince scream, Sly Stone drum kick, you know. I felt that you got that, you know, because you had these ebbs and flows in the music, and if people were really sampling like the way Public Enemy was, right, and they had this thing they call cram sampling, you had that dynamic of listening to a record 3 and 4 times and always hearing something new. But once the music industry got into the sampling business, it started taxing people. You could only go 1 or 2 samples at most. Now you tell me if you run into that problem, because I feel that your last album had a lot of the ebb and flow that you're talking about.
Well, you know, I think that, you know, when we made that record, I had been touring with the band, and Ant wasn't touring with me yet, but he was watching us practice, coming to shows, and we did make a point of incorporating that ebb and flow, even though the last record was almost all sample. You know, there was some instrumentation, but we were doing the thing where they were playing along with it just to help accentuate or to help open it wider. But, you know, I think that record personally personally, the record you're referring to, You Can't Imagine How Much Fun We're Having, is, at least from my heart, very, very inspired by the Bomb Squad. You know what I mean? It's like, especially the first half of the record. And then the second half of the record, we tried to kind of land it a little and get a little closer. It was like we started Bomb Squad and then try to land it on BDP. You know what I mean? And try and hit the room in between there, you know? And so I'm glad you say that you heard that ebb and flow, because that's something that we tried to stay really conscious with. You know what I mean? Like, Ant tried to make sure he could, you know, still stay musical, but figure out how he wanted to cram sample certain things up into the sound. You know,
you know how you have the ebb and flow.
How's that?
Because it's a pain in the ass to mix.
Yeah.
If you're a DJ,
and you talking about
if you're a DJ, it's like, what the hell?
Yeah. I feel you.
It's like, you know, if you just don't let it ride, you better walk that thing all the way through. But that's a good thing, though.
Well, I mean, yeah. And you know, the funny thing is like, you know, I come from a school of thought where your singles, that's for the DJ to mix. The rest of the record, those are the vegetables. You know what I mean? Those are the parts to chew on. And so it's like, we'll always have a couple of songs that are a little bit more, you know, simplistic, to make sure that, you know, you got you kick, your snare, your hi-hat, and then some kind of noise, you know what I mean? And I'll usually try to make sure that I keep my lyrics in the pocket, so it's like, you know, that's what I'm going for with that. This is the first time I made a record that I think I was like, I'm not paying attention to nobody. I'm not thinking about DJs. I'm not even thinking about like the fans. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I just mean like, this was a time for me and Anthony to really just go, what if we tried to do this? You know what I mean? And so it's going to be an interesting campaign for me, because I really want to analyze and study how people respond to this record, especially like those kids that have been sticking with me for so long. I want to see how they respond to this, because if they can take this and bite into it and be okay with it, to me it's like I can see the direction I want to grow as an artist, as a musician, so that I could find maybe a place where I can be one of those cats that's still doing this later in my years. You know what I mean?
We've been talking with Slug. We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back. Yeah!
Breakdown FM.